Coming up on this episode of Freedom from Fire, we'll talk about fire and life safety in places that we frequent, such as churches and daycares. Safety isn't just a concern for your home, so stay tuned to Freedom from Fire. Hello, and welcome to Freedom from Fire. I'm your host, Fire Commissioner Derek Sawyer. Here at Freedom from Fire, we bring you fire and life safety information and introduce you to our local safety partners. On today's episode, I'm going to talk about fire and safety in mixed occupancies. These are buildings that have many different fire codes depending on how that property is being used. Joining us first to talk about fire prevention for the faith-based organizations is Lieutenant Tyrone Goodwin of the Philadelphia Fire Department. Later, we will discuss fire safety in daycare facilities when I sit down with Mr. Edward Koch, the Area Business Director for Bright Hope Academy. But first, I would like to talk about the danger of fire in places of worship. These types of fires not only damage the structure, but they affect the community as a whole. A study conducted by the National Fire Protection Association from 2007 to 2011 found the following. U.S. fire departments responded to an estimated average of almost 1,800 structural fires in religious and funeral properties per year. These fires had significant costs. Each year, 2 civilians died, 19 civilians were injured, and there was $11 million in direct property damage. As we look at the 1,800 fires, funeral parlor fires accounted for 4% of the fires in religious and funeral properties. Most of the fires occurred in places of worship. However, there is some good news when we examine the big picture. There has been a 53% decrease in fires in religious and funeral properties. In 1980, there were 3,500 fires. That number was reduced by half to 1,700 fires. One way we can help our citizens reduce fires in religious facilities and funeral properties is by examining the causes. Cooking was found to be the cause in 3 of every 10 fires. Heating equipment was the second leading cause, and 16% of the fires were intentionally set. Electrical distribution or lighting equipment was involved in 10% of the accidents. Candles caused 4% of the fires also. The study also looked at other factors in these fires. No fire department equipment was found in 40% of the properties, and 61% of these fires occurred between 9 in the morning and 9 at night. Locally, the city of Philadelphia has had 23 fires in places of worship from 2012 till present time. One such fire occurred on Friday, January 28th in 1994 at the Rising Sun Baptist Church. 2 firefighters were killed and 8 firefighters were seriously injured. Additionally, the church's deacon also was injured in this fire. The fire destroyed the church and other properties in the immediate area. An extensive multi-agency investigation was conducted, and the origin and cause of the fire was determined that it was accidental. For this reason, there was no criminal prosecution. So that leads me to my first guest. Here to talk about fire prevention in faith-based organizations is Lieutenant Tyrone Goodwin, who's a 22-year member of the Philadelphia Fire Department. Welcome to Freedom for Fire.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So how you been?
I'm doing pretty good, sir.
Good, good. Tell us about your career.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm a 22-year veteran in the Philadelphia Fire Department. I was assigned to the Fire Code Unit in 2010. Presently enrolled in the Fire Science program at Community College. And actually, I'm a walking deacon at my church.
Great. So how long have you been a deacon?
I'm walking. I just got selected, and it's a year process. And you go before the membership, and they ordain you there.
Great. Now, you have this fire safety program for faith-based organizations. I remember attending your church one time when you presented the program. Tell us about the program.
Yes, sir. The program is really intended to help church leaders, pastors, and anyone in the faith-based community to help them to comply with the fire code. My position as a fire code inspector, part of my responsibility is I do inspections for the Board of Safety. And my experience is that a lot of those variance requests that come in are not for any of the churches. So that leads me to think that either all our churches in the city of Philadelphia are complying with the fire code,
right,
or either there's some issues that they may be afraid to bring about.
Right.
So my program is really intended to help them understand how to comply and with the fire code as it regards to commercial cooking, for example, where you're supposed to have a Class K fire extinguisher, not the traditional ABC fire extinguisher. Also in our faith-based community, the proper fire alarm system, I believe there's a misunderstanding because it changes when you have a congregation or a membership of 300 or less. So those are some
large church versus a small church.
Yes, sir. Exits, for example. When you reach a number, the fire code usually deals with changes based on numbers. So if you have, for example, 300, over 300 in your membership, then you're required to have a fire alarm system. You're required to have more than one exit door. So these are some of the issues that I felt the responsibility to take on. And one of the burning desires in my heart came from that Rising Sun Baptist Church fire that you mentioned. As you know, one of the survivors of that fire is one of our very own firefighters, Walter Jackson, who's with us. So these are some of the things that brought me to come about with sort of taking that initiative on my own.
So was that the driving force for you to put this together?
It was part of the driving force, and also just wanting to get, as a code official, just wanting the faith-based community to know that the fire department also has them in mind, and there's no fear. A lot of times people won't come forth with violations or issues because of fear of being violated and being taken to court. So the fire code variance process has procedures in there to help. So just getting this information out
to the right people,
to the faith-based community, I felt it would be helpful for both the public and for the fire department.
So what's the most common hazard that you've found in faith-based organizations?
The most common hazard is surprisingly just general maintenance.
Something that's easy to fix, right?
That's right, sir. And a lot of churches, they store combustibles in their basement, and it's just a matter of cleaning those basements out, a matter of not having materials blocking exits, inspections of fire protection equipment like fire extinguishers, annual tests on fire alarm systems. So just general maintenance seems to be the main issue that I've come across dealing with the faith-based community in those buildings.
So what is the occupancy classification for a faith-based organization? So like for schools is educational, what would the churches or funeral parlors, what would they come under? Which classification?
I'm glad you asked that question. faith-based community funeral parlors fall under the category of Assembly Group 3, A3. And the occupancy classification actually comes from the building code. And so assembly occupancies, funeral parlors, they're considered in the category of A3 occupancies. And along with that, there's just certain requirements that they're supposed to have. And again, this gets back to the number of the assemblies that they have in those buildings.
Does the 2013 code, that's a new code, right? 2013 is the latest edition.
Yes, sir.
Do they have any special requirements?
The requirements in the 2013 code are the requirements that deal with fire extinguishers, Class K.
Right.
It deals with the number of occupancy. When you reach more than 300, you need a fire alarm system. It deals with exit panic hardware. This is a big misunderstanding. If you have an assembly group where there's less than 300 people, you don't have to have that panic crash bar as we're aware of.
Right, right.
So the 2013 fire code addresses all these concerns for our church leaders and faith-based community leaders. It addresses all those things for them.
So tell the viewers how the fire department can help them if they need assistance with dealing with their fire code issues or fire and life safety issues. Well, how can the fire department help them out?
Yes, or they can call the 215-686-1356, which is the fire code unit, and we'll be more than glad to give them information on whether they have a violation or they don't and they just want to seek information. A lot of times congregations grow, so at one point in time they may not be required to have a certain level of fire protection, but if that congregation grows, then that could put them in another category. Great. So the fire code unit is more than willing to help out. We have a process, as you well know, called the variance process, where building owners can get relief in lieu of other fire protection suggestions from the Board of Safety. Great. And you yourself sign it. So we're willing to help. We just want to get this information out so we can avoid any catastrophes like we had in 1994.
Great. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to working with you again in the future.
Thank you, Fire Commissioner Sawyer.
We're going to take a quick break, but before we go, our Man on the Street team went to work quizzing more people on what they know about safety. In this segment, we want to see if you or what you know about keeping your pets safe. Then stay tuned for more Freedom of Fire.
I'm Caitlin Pages here, spreading awareness on how to keep your pets safe during a fire. Hey, Gabby and Emily, would you guys like to talk about your pets a little bit?
Sure, why not?
How many pets do you have and what kind?
I have 5 cats.
And I have a dog.
Awesome, 5 cats and a dog. Do you guys have any plans or ideas of how to keep your pet safe during a fire?
I would try and get as many cats as I could and get them in the carriers and leave.
Well, I have a small dog, just pick him up and go.
That's a good idea. The carriers is actually a great plan because when a fire happens, animals get really nervous. So putting them in a carrier on a leash is very important because they might get outside, get skittish, and run away. Also, like I said, they get nervous. So make sure you have in mind all of Alex's favorite places to hide or that he or she feels safe in.
He does like to hide.
Yeah, so if you know that he likes to hide under the couch, keep that in mind because during a fire, that's the first place you'll check.
Good to know.
In the case of a fire and you can't find your pet, make sure you leave the house safely with your family, but leave a door open and call the pet's name from a safe spot. Mostly, the pet will be distraught, but it will follow the sound of your voice and come safely outside. I don't know if you guys have these stickers outside your house, but you can get a sticker that alerts the fire company that there are pets inside your homes. Did you know about them?
I didn't.
No.
Most fires occur when the owners aren't home, so that would be a quick way for the fire department to know that there are pets in the house that may need help, and you can get them for free from any pet store or Humane Society. Here with Freedom from Fire, the Man on the Street correspondents understand that when a fire strikes your home, not only are you worried about your family, but your extended family as well. Be sure to include your 4-legged friends into your escape plan.
From our campus to the city of Philadelphia. Tune in and watch because we know you will love LaSalle TV.
Have you ever
had someone repeatedly put their hands on you even though you were saying no?
been threatened into an unwanted sexual activity? Each year, there are almost 300,000 victims of sexual assault,
Unwanted touching,
attempted rape, and committed rape
and even receiving sexually threatening messages.
are all forms of sexual assault.
Anyone can be a victim.
No matter the age, gender, or ethnicity, take a stand.
Against sexual assault.
Welcome back to Freedom from Fire. I'm your host, Fire Commissioner Derek Sawyer. On today's episode, we've been discussing fire safety in mixed occupancies, which are buildings used for places of worship and daycare centers. Mixed occupancies have different fire code requirements than residential buildings. Joining us today to discuss emergency preparedness in daycare facilities is Edward Koch, Director for Brightside Academy Child Care Centers. Welcome to Freedom from Fire.
Thank you.
So Ed, tell us about your career.
I'm a retired school administrator, put 36 years in with the Philadelphia School District,
Nice.
and very fortunate that I spent a lot of time working with the fire department in fire prevention during my career. Moved on to Brightside Academy, so I supervise schools for Brightside Academy, and very involved in the program.
Is that fun?
Having a good time.
Great. So how many daycares are you responsible for?
I'm actually responsible for 2 of our programs, our
Two?
early child programs.
How
yes.
large are they?
We have about 120 children each one, and my main academy is at 3rd and Westmoreland, and that's actually a bilingual academy.
Very good. How often does your staff get fire safety training?
All new employees get training on the spot when we have our orientation classes, and our employees assigned to our academies get a full training from the fire department once a year, required training.
Required once a year. Our student producers went to G's Human Services to see how their staff are trained in fire safety procedures and knowledge.
We basically provide fire safety staff trainings to daycares, hospitals, schools if they need it. These are usually mandated by the state for the citizens to maintain their occupation. Today we actually held a fire safety staff training. We're also going to do a fire evacuation approval, and we'll do a walkthrough where we inspect the alarm system, make sure that the exit signs are lit, make sure that none of the exits are obstructed with debris or boxes of any kind, and we also every once in a while observe fire drills. We usually do a staff event from anywhere from 10 to 20, sometimes as high as 60. And the individuals will sit down and we try to keep it like a class oriented. We administer a quiz, and then we go over the quiz with the individuals, and we emphasize the fire safety aspect for the home, also the institution itself. We go over the fire extinguisher, its use, how to use it effectively. We also go over a home escape plan, evacuation procedures, a meeting place for the evacuation procedures. Training itself can be used basically for the home as well as work. So we try to emphasize smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms within the bedrooms. When you're sleeping, your sense of hearing is actually alert, and that's what wakes you up. That's why you have the smoke alarm. Someone to actually get us to provide training or even an in-service, they will call the Fire Prevention Division, and we can actually schedule us for either us or a field company to come out and do a presentation for fire safety.
Thank you for that. Ed, I know your centers require emergency evacuation plans. Tell us about What goes into that process?
Very important for an emergency evacuation plan to have a site that is close by, yet not immediately attached where we can go to, and a relationship with that organization. So we canvass the area to find a user-friendly organization that we can go to in case of an emergency.
Great.
All of our teachers are made aware of the plan. We practice that on a regular basis, so if there was an emergency, we would be ready to move very, very quickly. We take our children out very quickly. We have attendance sheets, safety packages, all the information we need to move on to the next site, just as if we were at our own academy.
So there's also an option to shelter in place, right?
Also an option to shelter in place. We
So-
would do a shelter in place if we had a situation where we needed to remain in the building. And we practice those drills on a regular basis during the year. So if the issue was on the outside, we would not evacuate. We have an organized center within our academy that has been deemed to be a safe place to be
Right.
in case of an emergency.
In your shelter in place section, a specific area, what items are necessary so that
We
you can
make
have
sh-
supplies?
Right. We make sure that if we had to be there for an extended period of time, of course, we would have non-perishable food. We would keep a supply of water. We would immediately have our emergency kits on site, just as if we were in a classroom,
Right.
but we were in a safe environment until the emergency was cleared.
So what are some of the items you will have there?
In
So you're
those
talking
items,
about
as I
food,
mentioned, we would
water.
have food, water. We would make sure we have radios with batteries,
That's
so we have
important.
communication. Of course, a list of every child for every classroom, emergency contacts for all parents,
Right.
and emergency information and first aid kits in case there was an emergency that we had to handle.
Speaking of parents, how would you contact the parents to let them know there was an emergency?
Right, if there was an emergency, we would be using cell phones that are made available to us, and we would be contacting parents when it was safe to do so.
When you contact the parents, you have to make sure that they remain calm. So go through that process a little bit.
We have an environment with our parents, and I make sure I created that as a principal, where we have an excellent relationship with parents. So when there is an excellent relationship during good times, if there was an emergency, our parents would know to trust us when they drop their children off every day, that they're in a safe environment. During parent meetings, we bring this up on a regular basis, and we talk about shelter in place, evacuation if things were to happen. Because when our children are with us at Brightside Academy, it's the same as if they're at home. We try to create the same type of environment to keep our children just as safe.
Great. How often do you meet with the parents?
We meet with our parents, well, I meet with our parents, believe it or not, once a day.
Oh, that's great.
Because at the academies each day, we have a strong relationship with our parents, and that's critical. And then we have formal meetings with our parents that I would like to invite you to.
I'll gladly come.
And I have a nice breakfast, so we'll make sure we have that for you.
If you have food, I'm in.
You're in. And we meet monthly with our parents. Of course, individually, I meet with parents when there are issues, but I see our parents on a daily basis, and of course, a monthly basis for formal meetings.
When you talk about the evacuation plan with the parents, are they informed where the evacuation place is located at?
Absolutely. And actually, we use an elementary school right next to us, and I used to work with that principal when I was in the district.
What school is that?
Marin, and in Spanish we say Marin. And a very close relationship. I'm in that school at least once a week visiting, because I believe relationships should be in a positive manner.
That's true.
And then if there's an emergency, we just follow up.
Now, how often have you had to use that school, or have you even practiced a plan with the
Well,
school?
we practice it on a
Right.
regular basis. Fortunately, we have not had to use it.
That's great.
But if we need to, we are ready.
Great.
And our kids are also very comfortable with it, so it would not come as a shock or surprise if something was to occur, because our children begin our program at 6 weeks old.
Great. So if you had one message for those parents or future students at your academy, what would that message be?
Fire safety is critical. It is important that what we practice at our school, we practice it at home, and we make sure that when our kids leave our environment at the end of the day, they're in a safe environment. And what I'm also planning to do right now is to bring the Junior Fire Patrol Fire Safety Program to Brightside Academy, a program that I started at my school in 1975.
And we still have that program.
And I know, so we're very excited about it.
So I want to thank you for joining us today, Keep up the good work. But before you leave, I have one favor to ask.
Absolutely.
Would you join me in taking the fire safety pledge?
On behalf of Brightside Academy and myself, I'd be honored.
Great. Let's raise that right hand. Ready?
Ready.
I love my family,
I love my family
and I'm responsible for their safety. Therefore, I pledge the following. I pledge to have at least one working smoke alarm on each level of my home. I pledge to test my alarms as recommended and replace my alarms with new lithium battery-powered alarms when needed. I pledge that every family member will sleep with their bedroom door closed. I pledge to develop and practice a home escape plan. I pledge that if I cannot afford smoke alarms, I will call the non-emergency number 311 or visit www.phila.gov/311. All of this I do solemnly pledge. Thanks again. Now let's look at upcoming events. On Saturday, April 11th, you can listen to my radio show, Let's Talk Safety, on WRD 900 AM at 3 p.m. I hope you tune in. This is where I will continue to discuss contemporary public safety issues. Remember, if you would like to find out more about safety or LaSalle TV, you can check out our social media sites. And if you're interested in learning about the Philadelphia Fire Department, visit our Facebook, Twitter, and web pages. I would like to once again thank Lieutenant Tyrone Goodwin and Ed Koch for joining us today. I also would like to thank you for tuning in and watching. So until next time, remember, fire is everyone's fight. Stay safe and remain free from fire.